This is the second part of the story. My husband disappeared every full moon. Last night, I followed him. You can watch the first part by clicking on the tip on the screen at the top right. Enjoy watching. My husband disappeared every full moon. Last night, I followed him. She just stepped back and let me enter. Her name was Elaine, mid-60s, thin, sharpened somehow by grief and age. Her eyes were Eric's eyes, blue and distant, like something inside her was always watching the door behind you. I stepped into a house that smelled of lavender and mothballs. Dust floated in the air like spores. She led me to the kitchen and poured me tea without asking. "You're not going to believe me," I began. "I already do," she said. That shook me. "I know who you are," she added softly. "And I know what you've come to ask." I pulled the Polaroid from my jacket. The woman from the attic, Marlene. My face, decades before I was born. Elaine stared at it for a long time. Then she said, "That was your grandmother." My throat closed. "Eric's grandmother?" She shook her head. "Yours." I nearly dropped the teacup. "That's not possible," I said. "She died in a fire when I was—" "She didn't die in a fire," Elaine said. "That's just the story your mother told you. She wanted to protect you from the truth." "What truth?" Elaine stood and crossed the room. She opened a drawer and pulled out an old box. Inside were more photos. Marlene, younger, pregnant, smiling faintly. Another photo, Marlene and Elaine side by side, teenagers. "We were friends," Elaine said. "More than friends. In love, I think, for a time." My mouth went dry. "Your grandmother was the first one I ever saw touched by it." "It," she said again. The same word Eric had used. I stared at her. "Tell me everything." So she did. Marlene was 17 when the dreams started. She told Elaine about them in hushed whispers, shadows standing at the edge of her bed, whispering her name in voices that didn't belong to any living thing. The dreams followed the lunar cycle, growing more vivid as the moon ripened in the sky. Then the blackouts began. She'd wake in strange places, behind the church, inside the school janitor's closet. Once half buried in mud behind the old mill, fingers raw and torn. She tried to kill herself twice. Elaine helped cover it up both times. Then came the night they found the first body, a boy from their school, disemboweled behind the bleachers. His face had been skinned. Marlene woke up with blood under her nails. She didn't remember doing it, Elaine said, voice trembling, but she remembered watching herself. She begged Elaine to help her, to chain her up, drug her, exorcise her. Nothing worked. Elaine scoured books, visited strange churches, drove 4 hours to meet a woman who called herself a guardian of thresholds. They all said the same thing, she said. It was older than a curse, older than sin, a hunger that wore flesh like clothes. I leaned forward. How did she stop it? Elaine's eyes brimmed. She didn't. "She disappeared," Elaine said. "One full moon. She kissed me on the mouth, walked into the woods, and never came back." Her voice broke. "I looked for her for weeks. I thought maybe the thing inside her had devoured her, but then your mother showed up 8 months later." My heart was racing now. "She claimed she was adopted, said her mother had died in childbirth." Elaine nodded. "That's what I told her to say." I stared at the photo again, my face, on a woman who'd vanished before I was born. "So whatever was inside Marlene, it passed on?" Elaine's voice was barely a whisper now. "To you." I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. Not after the cameras, the woods, the knife, the letter. Not after Eric's haunted eyes when he whispered, "You." I rubbed my arms. The air in Elaine's kitchen had grown cold, heavy. "When did Eric find out?" I asked. She hesitated. "The first time he saw you sleepwalking, 6 months after you got married. He called me crying, said he found you standing over him with a broken wine glass in your hand. Said you didn't blink for 2 full minutes." My mouth went dry. "I don't remember that." She shook her head. "You wouldn't." She pulled something else from the drawer, another journal, different from the one I found. This one was older, the leather worn thin, the corners frayed. She handed it to me. This was Marlene's. I opened it. The handwriting was familiar. Too familiar. It matched mine. Exactly. I flipped through entries filled with panic, despair, terror. I heard her whispering again in the mirror. She says she's hungry. "Elaine found me covered in feathers, said I killed a goose. I don't remember. Full moon tomorrow. I can feel her stretching my skin from the inside." My hands trembled as I turned the last page. There, in slanted ink. "If you're reading this, it didn't die with me." The moon broke through the clouds then, a shaft of pale light falling across the kitchen table. My pulse ticked louder. My breath came short. "I should go," I said. Elaine looked up sharply. "No, stay here. I have the tools, the restraints, the herbs." "The what?" She stood. "You need to be bound. Tonight, or you might not come back." I backed away. Her voice rose. "Please, you don't know what you're capable of." I turned and ran. She chased me to the car, screaming, begging, holding something that looked like a silver dagger in one hand and a bundle of dried sage in the other. I locked the doors and peeled away, gravel spitting under the tires. I drove for miles. Only when I hit the highway did I realize I was crying. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew that I couldn't go home. Not yet. Not until I knew who I was. An hour later, I stopped at a motel. Checked in under a false name. Slept with the lights on. I dreamed of blood, of teeth, of someone wearing my skin like a dress. When I woke up, the sheets were torn, and the mirror had words written in steam. Soon. Part 5. The Break. I didn't check out the next morning. I couldn't face the world outside. Couldn't face what I might have done or what I was becoming. The mirror was clean now, no trace of the word soon. But I hadn't written it. Unless I had. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection for a long time. My eyes looked different, like someone else was peeking out from behind them. Someone cruel. Someone patient. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. One new message. "You're not safe anywhere." I dropped the phone like it had burned me. Was it a threat or a warning? The motel clerk knocked around noon to see if I wanted the room for another night. I opened the door halfway and lied. Said I was waiting for my husband to pick me up. He smiled. "Wasn't that him last night?" I froze. "No," I said. "I came alone." He frowned. "Ma'am, someone came in through your window around 3 a.m. I saw it on the security feed when I was checking cameras." I didn't remember anything. Nothing. My hands started shaking. "Can I see it?" We walked to the cramped office. A wall of old screens buzzed faintly above a cluttered desk. He rewound the footage, clicked through static and night vision snow. "There," he said, pointing. I leaned in. The feed showed the back of the motel, my window, at exactly 2:58 a.m. The screen popped loose. A shape climbed through the window, graceful, fluid, almost floating. It was me, in a thin white slip, barefoot. Carrying the same knife from the forest, the one Eric had buried in plastic. I watched myself slip inside, vanish into the shadows of the room. Then, at 4:17 a.m., I climbed back out, smiling. The clerk was pale. Should I call someone? I shook my head violently. No, I'm doing a documentary. It's for research, all staged. He didn't believe me, but he nodded. I left 5 minutes later. No plan, no direction. I just drove. I ended up at a gas station off Route 5. I parked in the far corner between two dead pumps and cried. Violently, ugly, snot-soaked and howling. When I looked up, a boy was staring at me from the sidewalk. Maybe 10 years old, shaggy brown hair, blue coat. He walked up to the driver's side window and tapped once. I rolled it down 2 inches. "You're the lady from the woods," he said. My stomach flipped. "What woods?"
"You were digging, by the water." I couldn't speak. He pressed something against the glass. A photo. Blurry, low quality, but unmistakable. I was on my knees beside the creek, pulling something from the dirt. A garbage bag. "Where did you get that?" I whispered. "My dad's trail camera. He hunts coyotes." He smiled like it was a game. "You looked funny, like you weren't really you." I opened the door so fast the kid flinched. "Where's your dad?" I snapped. He pointed behind me. I turned, and there he was. A man in his 40s, camo jacket, ball cap, frown deepening. He wasn't smiling. "Hey," he said, "why are you talking to my son?" I held up the photo. "Did you take this?" He narrowed his eyes. "You one of the cops?" "No." He chewed on that for a second. "Then why do you care?" I made him an offer. $300 cash for the full memory card. He hesitated, then nodded. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my car with the footage playing on my laptop. There were dozens of clips. Some showed deer, foxes, a raccoon fight, but others showed me. The earliest was from 2 months ago, the full moon in April. It showed me walking barefoot into the woods, head tilted at a strange angle, limbs stiff. I carried a bouquet of dead flowers and was humming something too slow and too high. May's footage was worse. I was wearing Eric's shirt and dragging a body-sized object wrapped in tarp. I was smiling again, wide, gleeful. At one point, I looked directly at the camera. My eyes didn't blink. I couldn't breathe. This thing inside me, it wasn't dormant. It was thriving, and it had a pattern. Each month, it got bolder, more comfortable. I thought of the journal entries in my handwriting, the photos Eric had hidden, the bodies in the forest, the fingernail scratches in our bedroom wall. A thought bloomed in my head like a bruise. What if it didn't want to hide anymore? I needed help. But not police, not psychiatrists. They would lock me in a white room and pump me full of meds. They'd never believe what I'd seen. Eric had tried to help. Elaine, too. But they'd both failed. I thought of what Elaine had said about the woman she visited. The one who called herself a guardian of thresholds. I opened my laptop, typed those words into the search bar, scrolled for what felt like hours. Then I found her. Her name was Aura. She lived upstate, in a cabin near the Adirondack foothills. Her website was a nightmare of flashing GIFs and Comic Sans font. But it had testimonials, pages of them. People who swore she'd saved their children from curses, helped them sleep, purged something called the shadow other. It felt ridiculous, but so had everything else. I sent her an email with no subject line. There's something inside me. I need to make it stop. She replied 10 minutes later. One sentence. Come before the next moon, or it will become you. I drove through the night, didn't stop for food or sleep. By sunrise, I was at the edge of the forest, staring at a wooden sign that said, Aura's Hollow, by appointment only. A raven perched on the post watched me with 2 human eyes. I took a breath, walked down the path. The cabin was crooked and half swallowed by moss. Chimes made of bones swung from the eaves. The door opened before I knocked. Aura stood there, pale, ageless, dressed in black robes stitched with silver thread. You've come late, she said. Will you help me? She didn't answer, just motioned for me to enter. Inside, it smelled of iron and lilac. Candles lined the shelves, books with no titles, a circle drawn in chalk on the floor. She pointed to it. Stand there. I did. She walked around me 3 times, whispered things I couldn't understand, then stopped. It's not just a possession, she said. What is it then? She looked me dead in the eyes. It's inheritance. She poured salt around the circle, burned herbs, asked for a drop of my blood. I hesitated. What happens if you're wrong? I asked. If I'm wrong, she said, you'll kill me. That wasn't comforting, but I gave her the blood. She smeared it on a pendant, lit 3 candles, chanted in a language older than English. And then I felt it, a crack inside my mind, a splitting, and for the first time, I heard her. She was laughing. The other me. The one who wore my skin like a favorite coat. She thinks she can burn me out, the voice said. Let her try. I dropped to my knees. Blood ran from my nose. My vision doubled. Aura threw salt into my face and screamed something guttural. It burned like acid. I screamed. But something screamed back. The cabin shook. Windows shattered. Then, blackness. I woke hours later, face pressed to the floor. Aura was slumped in a chair, pale, shaking. You fought her, she whispered. But she's stronger than you. I sat up slowly. She's part of me? Aura nodded. Not a demon, not a ghost, a legacy, passed down like eye color. How do I get rid of her? Aura met my eyes. You don't, but you can learn to control her, chain her, starve her, or she becomes the only one left. I left Aura's cabin with 3 things. A ritual binding kit, a book she called The Path of Division, and a warning. Next full moon, choose who you want to be, or she'll choose for you. I drove back home in silence. Eric's side of the bed was cold when I climbed in. But I didn't sleep, because I wasn't sure which one of us would wake up. The last sunrise. The cabin was silent when I woke up. Not peaceful silent. Wrong silent. The kind of quiet that presses on your ears and chest like the world is holding its breath. I was on the floor. My wrists were bruised and raw where the chains had been. A thin line of dried blood stretched from my temple to the corner of my mouth. The taste of metal clung to the back of my throat. The room was still dim, but the faint blue glow of early dawn crept in through the edges of the boarded-up window. And Eric was gone. I sat up slowly. Every muscle in my body ached. My head pounded like it had its own heartbeat. My shirt was stiff with blood. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. Nails cracked and dark at the edges. I didn't know if it was dirt or something worse. I whispered his name. Eric? No answer. I tried again, louder. Eric! Nothing. Panic didn't hit all at once. It was gradual, creeping, like cold water soaking into your clothes after you fall through ice. I staggered to my feet and limped toward the door. The lock was undone. The chain, once wrapped tightly around my ankle, was snapped in half, twisted like something had torn through it with brute force. Or I had. Outside, the forest was pale and silver with frost. The air smelled like pine and firewood, but underneath it was something darker, something sweet and wrong, like rotting fruit. There were tracks in the snow, boot prints, deep and uneven, blood, and drag marks. I followed them. The trail led away from the cabin, down a steep incline, and into the denser part of the woods. I followed with bare feet and shaking limbs, clutching my arms tight against my chest as I moved. The farther I went, the more the forest changed. The trees grew closer together. The snow thinned into frozen mud. Crows perched on branches overhead, watching silently, like sentinels to something sacred and terrible. Then I saw him. Eric was lying under a pine tree, curled in on himself like a child. His coat was gone. His shirt was soaked with blood, sleeves bunched up to the elbows. One arm rested over his chest. The other hung loosely at his side. His skin was pale, too pale. For a moment, I thought, maybe he's just unconscious. Maybe he passed out from blood loss. Maybe. Then I saw the knife. It lay beside him in the snow, glinting dully under the rising sun. The blade was smeared red. And the paper. There was a piece of it pinned to his chest with a twig, already soaked and curling at the edges from his blood. I knelt beside him. My hand shook as I reached for his wrist. Cold. No pulse. He was gone. The note read, I couldn't save her, but I can stop her. I didn't cry. I couldn't. There was too much static in my mind. Too much noise and memory and something else. Something not mine pushing at the corners of my skull. I pressed my forehead to his chest and whispered, I'm sorry. The walk back was a blur. I don't remember how long I wandered before finding the cabin again. The door creaked open when I touched it, the hinges groaning like they were alive. Inside, nothing had changed, and everything had. The salt circle in the basement was half destroyed. The mirror Eric had set up in the corner was shattered across the floor. The chains were burned, edges twisted and black. Something had been here. I had been here, but not me. Not the part of me that was speaking now. Not the part that loved Eric. not the part that wanted help.
She had taken over. Again.
I collapsed onto the basement floor and stared at the ceiling. My brain felt like a deck of cards that had been thrown across a room. Pieces of memory scattered, some missing, some flipped the wrong way. I remembered Eric yelling, chain snapping, a scream, high, inhuman. My voice? Hers? I didn't know. I remembered teeth, mine bared like an animal's, and I remembered him reaching for me, not to stop me, but to hold me. And then darkness. They say trauma splits people, shatters the mind into fragments, little cracks that deepen over time until the whole structure collapses. But I don't think that's what happened to me. What I felt, what I've become, it wasn't just damage. It was something else. Something old. Something hungry. Something that comes out when the moon is full and the mind is weakest. Maybe it was always there. Maybe Eric just tried to love it into submission. 3 days later, they found me. A hiker spotted the smoke from the cabin and called it in. A search team found me collapsed in the front porch, barefoot, bleeding, eyes open but unseeing. They sedated me, took me to a hospital, asked me questions I didn't answer. I told them we'd gone camping, that Eric wandered off in the night, that I'd panicked and started a fire trying to stay warm. They bought it, or they pretended to. Eric's death was ruled a suicide. They never found the knife. The doctors say I have dissociative identity disorder. They use words like trauma response and personality fragmentation. They say Eric tried to help me, that he was my caretaker, that the ritualistic behavior was a misguided attempt to control the episodes. They don't understand. She's not an alter. She's separate. She's a predator. She doesn't want integration. She wants control. I don't sleep much anymore. When I do, I dream of woods, of teeth, of blood. Sometimes I see Eric standing at the edge of the trees, calling my name. His voice is hoarse but kind. His eyes never leave mine. I wake up crying. Once, I woke up with dirt in my mouth. I sleep with the lights on now. The moon is full again tonight. I can feel her stirring beneath my skin, like a heartbeat that doesn't belong to me. Like something breathing just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to take over. I've tried medication, hypnosis, therapy, but none of it touches her. Because she isn't just in my head, she's in my blood, in my bones, in the spaces where Eric used to be. I've moved 3 times in 6 months, changed my name, cut my hair, deleted every photo of us I could find, burned his journal. But no matter how far I run, she follows. And sometimes, I don't want to run anymore. Sometimes, I understand why Eric gave up. He wasn't trying to kill himself. He was trying to make a bargain, a sacrifice, an offering. To end it. To end me. But I'm still here. And I don't know whether that's mercy or punishment. I think about turning myself in sometimes, telling the police everything, showing them the scars, the files, the bodies in the woods. But who would believe me? What jury would convict a woman who doesn't remember the killings, who's technically innocent by reason of insanity? And worse, what if they do believe me? What if they lock me in a padded room and she finds a way out anyway? So here I am, sitting on the edge of my bathtub, holding Eric's old knife in one hand and his note in the other. I couldn't save her, but I can stop her. He tried. God, he tried. I owe him more than my life. I owe him the truth. The clock reads 11:48 p.m. The moon is at its peak. My reflection in the mirror shifts. Her smile begins to form. And I say, no more. I raise the knife, but she speaks first. Do it. Go ahead. You think killing yourself ends this? You think I die with you? I'm not trapped in your body. I'm trapped in your name. You die, and I find someone new. Someone weaker. Someone who doesn't know how to fight me. I freeze. The blade shakes in my hand. She leans closer in the mirror. Her eyes are all black now. No whites. No soul. But if you live, we stay together. Just you and me. Forever. I drop the knife. Not out of weakness, out of decision. I won't give her what she wants. Not a host, not a death, not anything. Instead, I walk outside, barefoot, into the snow, into the woods, back to the place where it started. They say sunrise is a kind of rebirth, that the first light of morning has power over darkness. I sit at the edge of the clearing where Eric died, and I wait. I wait for the sun, for the pain, for her. And when she rises, I'll meet her with eyes wide open. Because if I have to burn to kill her, then I'll burn. If you're reading this, and the moon is full tonight, lock your doors, cover your mirrors, and don't trust the voice that calls your name in the dark. It might sound like me, but it isn't.